Good day, Ruskin enjoyers. I hope you're all doing well, and we've got a lot to talk about, so sit back and relax. Let's get straight to it. Right now it's the 18th of September, and very recently something juicy just appeared, and it's going to be quite a discussion. Now, it's going to be very hypothetical. There are no guarantees, but just kind of take it all in, and you can understand why there's potentially something very interesting that's about to happen. So sit back and relax. Let's go. So you know how quite recently I made a fuss talking about Rust commits, and how if you want to stay up to date for all the potential new content that might be coming out, you should look at these commits because you could potentially read in and notice some new content potentially coming out. But also, do you remember when I was talking about the likes of, you know, why don't we consider some ideas for like fancy dress for Rust items in the future and whatnot? This was goofy, this was silly, but it's very relevant for today. And then, of course, we also fairly recently talked about long-term investing with Halloween items and whatnot. So what's all this about? What is relevant to all of this? Well, I have a tweet here. I saw this happen. It turns out, potentially, on the horizon, we're getting a Dracula Cape. Oh, I wonder who might have suggested that. Ah, there we go. Now, the goofiest thing was, I knew this was goofy. I knew this was silly, but I was like, you know what? At that specific time, we had not yet seen the Berserker cloak jacket being accepted, 25th of July. We had not seen it being accepted, and I was like, you know what? I've seen people make attempts to look to try and make some cool-looking cloaks and capes. Why not Facepunch, like, actually implement, like, a cape-style attire, you know? And that's where I was like, consider as a test subject introducing the likes of Dracula's Cape. Well, it turns out the Berserker cloak jacket was accepted, and now it looks like we potentially might be getting a Dracula Cape. I am surprised. Let me just point that out. Very surprised. I can't guarantee if they watched that video, but if they did, thank you very much, Facepunch. Much appreciated. So anyway, we now need to discuss the potential of this. Will this be an item that you have to pay for, or will this just be available to everybody to make in-game? I don't know. But we have to talk about more in regards to if it's a brand new item that you have to buy in the game. Right, what will that potentially lead to? We potentially might see some Halloween items that were, you know, in last year's Rust store not being brought back, or potentially even being discontinued. And that could be a very, very potentially very nice, profitable adventure to make. So let's just take a look at last year's Rust store. So hopping over back to here, yep. We had a lot of skins for the first week, and then we had a lot of items. So let's just remember this. Halloween has 2 Rust stores every single year. Just wanted to make sure that you're very aware of that. And we had quite the abundance of Halloween items last year. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We had more items than skins last year. Now, you might sit there and say, okay, but what? Well, this is like a stupidly high amount of items, especially when you compare it with previous year's Halloweens, where we only had maybe like 5 or 8, which still was quite a lot, but the main point is, it's getting a bit too much. And if we're going to see potentially a Dracula Cape, which might be an item you have to pay for, I'm under the assumption that we potentially might see one of these items being removed from being reintroduced ever again. Like, maybe just for this year, potentially, maybe never again. So we're now going to start discussing about what likely can happen with that. So the first thing that I could probably talk about is, you know, holiday items. Every holiday, when we have a special Rust store for it, we usually get these special items being introduced. We get this for the likes of Easter, we get this for the likes of Halloween, we get this for the likes of Christmas. And we've had many items being introduced for certain years, and, you know, it's fun, goofy side content that people do appreciate. But sometimes that content isn't brought back. It essentially is discontinued. For example, do you see these jack-o'-lanterns introduced in 2016? Never brought back. Scarecrow, which at the moment seems to be selling quite nicely at the moment. Yep, this is currently selling at $30. Whoa, I didn't realise that much. This has never been brought back. This was introduced to Halloween 2017, never ever brought back. And if you look at its sales history, it's only going up, 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 up. This is the main thing that we are kind of looking at. If we potentially have another item that's never going to be brought back ever again, it very likely will behave exactly like this scarecrow. Now, it did take a good few years for this to go up in price by quite a lot, but there was another fairly recent item that was discontinued and suddenly went up in price even higher. Surgeon Scrubs. Back in 2019, this was introduced, and what you can see here is this is now selling for, currently, about $35. Now, it was selling for about $40 a good couple months, about a few weeks ago, last year as well. But yeah, basically this is also very expensive because it only was introduced in 2019 and never brought back. And we could also take a look at the likes of Christmas. Hey, look, we have had Christmas lights, but not that one. No, I'm talking more about these Christmas lights right here. Yep. So these Christmas lights were introduced in Christmas of 2017, sold for like $2.49. No, it was like $4.99. Anyway, they were never brought back, and now they sell for $165 on the Steam market. Yep, and if you look at its history, again, it's just going up, 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 up. Cool. So, this potentially could happen to one of these items that we've had introduced fairly recently. Maybe it might be an item that's been around for quite some time. Maybe it might have been one of the newer items that appeared last year. Let's get to it. So, I'm under the assumption that there might be a few items here that might be taken out of the reintroduction pool. And the first thing that I'm considering is maybe it's the hockey mask. So yeah, this was in reference to Jason, I believe. Yep, very goofy, very silly. Sold for $8 at the moment. Doesn't seem to have that price. However, I get the feeling maybe every single year from now on we get some sort of special clothing or attire that is in reference to a iconic Halloween series, medium, whatever, you know what I'm on about. And you know how for Lunar New Year we get a different mask for each of the different years and whatnot? Maybe from here on now we get a special sort of Halloween clothing item that's in reference to a very popular style of fancy dress or something, or a costume. You get the idea. You know what I'm trying to say here. So maybe last year was Jason, scary guy with big knife chase after you. You get the idea. And then this year it's going to be Dracula. Maybe next year, I don't know, maybe it's going to be killer clowns or something, or a ghost, or zombies, or you get the idea. So maybe this might be a thing. This has got me thinking that maybe the hockey mask might not be brought back this year. And how many of these are currently in circulation? Apparently there is only, let's see here, apparently there is just over 2,000 of these in existence. Which would mean that potentially might be interesting to look at now. Now, by default, if that were to be reintroduced and it sells for $8 again, I still think that would go up in price. You saw last year with the carvable pumpkin, when it first was introduced, it sold for $7, and then last year it sold for $6. And the pumpkins before that, they were selling for like $1 to $2. They actually bumped up to about $4 to $5 is what I meant to say. They did go down afterwards pretty quickly because loads of people were selling. But the main point is, if an item is not selling super great before Halloween, but it gets reintroduced and set at a high price again, people would notice in the Rust store, realise it's cheaper on the Steam market, they end up buying out the stock on the Steam market, and the price does go up. So that right there is looking interesting for two different reasons there. It might get reintroduced at a high price again, and people might buy it out from the Steam market, goes up in price. It might be discontinued and never ever brought back ever again. Very nicely going up in price from here on now. So yeah, that right there, very, very interesting. Now, it might not be the mask. It could very likely also be the likes of the Cultist Deer Torch or the baseball bat. I can't really guarantee anything, but I'm under the impression that if it's the clothing piece, and with the whole idea of we're going to see something very similar to the likes of the Lunar New Year, maybe that hockey mask is never brought back ever again. Maybe, no guarantees, all right? So you can understand now how things might be fairly interesting. Maybe this might also go up to about $40 like the Surgeon Scrubs. I wouldn't expect it to go up in price like that, but I would expect it to go at a better price than what it is. That's the best answer that I can give you. Now, other potential things that I could maybe consider, maybe mummy wraps. This has been around for a good reasonable amount of time, but maybe that might get retired. Maybe even the Cursed Cauldron. Now, this did skip a year. I do recall this skipping a year, and you can see this here. So when you go to scm.app, when you look at the specific details page, you can scroll down and see all the times it was reintroduced. This actually skipped 2019. Now, what we saw being skipped last year was the Skull Fire Pit. Yep, that's it, Skull Fire Pit. I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe that's introduced this year, reintroduced, and that might be skipped this year, maybe, potentially, possibly. Can't guarantee anything, but I do get the feeling that Facepunch is going to want to always have a certain amount of Halloween items, like the candle set. I get the feeling Skull Spikes will definitely always be brought back. I get the feeling Deer Torch will be brought back as well. I think they want to have some items that are always being brought back. Now, will Carvable Pumpkin potentially be a contender? I get the feeling that they always want to have these available. I mean, you can do whatever you want them and whatnot. You can draw some very weird things with them. But was it popular enough? Is it justifiable for it to have a spot in the Rust store? Who knows? Who knows? But it is quite expensive. We should point that out. I can't really guarantee anything. So it's a guessing game. Could it potentially be the Cursed Cauldron, the Carvable Pumpkin, the Mummy Wraps, the Deer Torch, the Baseball Bat, the Hockey Mask? Maybe even Skull Trophy. Maybe that's been around for too long. Maybe they want to give it a break on that for now. But from here on now, my best suggestion is, if you happen to own any of these items, right, maybe it's better to wait until the next Halloween Rust stores, which will, of course, be, if we can just get this correct, it is expected that the October 19th and the October 26th Rust stores will be the Halloween ones. And the 12th will be Charitable Rust. So based on what we're currently at, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4. So in about a month's time, we're going to see what happens. So you have to start considering what you're going to do for the next month. Are you going to hold on to your items? Are you going to sell them now because you think, oh, they're very likely going to get reintroduced at a cheaper price? As you can see here, Mummy Wraps. This usually sells for about $6 in the Rust store. Right now it's selling at $8. If this is reintroduced, that's going down to $6 again. Oh yes, it is. So you now have to question what potentially might happen now. Skull Spikes, who knows? Baseball Bat, who knows? But they sold for a cheaper price, so you have to question everything. Oh no. So yeah, I'm sorry if this probably brought some panic to you, but Halloween, but yeah, something interesting potentially might be happening. And the best thing that I can tell you to do next is keep an eye on the commit. Sorry, sorry. So again, I'll make sure to link this to you in the description of this video. And to properly understand the importance of keeping an eye on commits, you know, we did have this video. You know, it's not the first time where we've had some leaked content that we thought, you know what, this potentially could lead to a very interesting investment. We've seen the mention of gingerbread building skin. Maybe that's for Christmas. Maybe that might not be sold to people. Maybe it's going to be given to everybody. We don't know. But we knew about it because we were keeping an eye on the commits. And this is why I'm telling you, keep an eye on it. And you know what? If you are interested in any other goofy ideas that I had, please consider taking a look at this Halloween item ideas video. Now, it was made at the very end of July. But yeah, some information in that might be a little bit awkward because, like I mentioned, Berserker Cloak Jacket was accepted after this. So... And yeah, also consider looking at this, because you might not be able to make an investment right now, but you could make an investment for Halloween items after Halloween. How does that work? Consider watching the video. So yeah, all good. Thank you very much for watching this video. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but now you can kind of understand something interesting very likely might be happening next month, but we have to wait and see. So best of luck to all of you, best of luck to all of your investments, and happy early Halloween. Catch you all later. See you and goodbye.